Today is primarily a working day, a design day, which is a good thing. We need to kind of get started with assignment 105. I've done this in a couple ways, and I've found over time that it's better to give you an actual design project and have you, like when we move on and draw some elevations and whatever, have you actually draw something real. So you design something, you draw that thing, and then we take that thing and we figure out how to print it and work with it, etc. So today you get your assignment 105 handout. I'm going to go through that. We're going to talk about the site. I'll give you a little bit of further in AutoCAD instruction, but for the most part it's what we did last class. The difference being you're now in charge of what the floor plan is going to look like, what the building's going to look like, etc. Today we will work on the floor plan. Next class we'll work on the elevations. So let's talk a little bit about assignment 105 before we get into AutoCAD and we get started here. So for this assignment you're going to be designing a small cabin, and I emphasize small here. It's only 1,000 square feet, so you don't have too much space to deal with. No giant mansions, okay? If you exceed that by a little bit, it's probably reasonable. If you are a little under, that's even better. But I don't want like 2,000 square feet or 3,000 square feet. We're keeping everything small. The idea behind small is that you can concentrate on putting detail in rather than spending too much time with giant spaces. So what exactly are you going to be designing? You're going to be designing a cabin for a husband and wife that don't have any children. They'd like 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. That should be about 400 square feet. I'm not married to the actual square footages. It doesn't have to be exactly 400 square feet. It's giving you an approximate size, so you have some idea. And so when I'm setting this up, obviously this is not a design studio, so we're not going to sit here and have mid-reviews and have design theory and those kinds of conversations. This is about learning how to draw, making sure that you can represent your ideas well. So I'm giving you these as guidelines so that you don't have to stress out about, oh, wait a minute, how big should a bedroom really be? Like you have a general idea. So we have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom of 400 square feet. We have a living space, hopefully with a fireplace, with windows that, quote, capture the site. That just means be contextually aware of where we are. I'm going to let you do your project in Yosemite, which of course would not happen in reality. It's a national park. You couldn't build your cabin there, but what a great site to do. The truth is that if you were in a design studio and they picked a site that was in Yosemite, the logical thing would be to go and have a site visit in Yosemite. Which, as much as I would love to take us all on a site visit to Yosemite, it is not in the cards for us to go do that. The reason that I picked Yosemite is there are plenty of photographs, there's plenty of information about Yosemite. It's really easy to get an idea of what it looks like. We're going to go there in Google Earth in just a second. So you can get a pretty good context of what we're going to be designing. So anyway, on with that. So that's 200 square feet. A kitchen that is open to the living space of about 150 square feet. That's pretty small for a kitchen. It's not a giant kitchen. A dining space of about 150 square feet. You could get creative and combine those two together if you wanted to. Maximum square footage, no more than 1,000 square feet. So that's what we're shooting for. If you have exterior decks, patios, those kinds of things, they don't count towards your square footage totals. So you can have big decks outside. I'm okay with that. So we're going to go ahead and start with an evaluation of the site. At the bottom of this, this page here, under downloads, I have download a zip file of site information. This has some basic site information on it. Part of what it has, so let me go ahead and I download it. I'm going to go ahead and extract it. So let's see here. There we go. So I'm giving you an AutoCAD file that's a topography file. We'll get to that in just a second. The other one is a KMZ file. It's a Google Earth file, so you can get an idea of where this site is. Google Earth used to be a program that you could download and install on your computers. They're now doing it all online. So if you go to google.com/earth, it'll take you to this page, which is the Google Earth page. And from there, you can click this button that says Launch Earth in Chrome. Of course, this is always the challenge when you do stuff live. Is it going to work correctly? Let's hope it does. Okay, we don't need to go through. We can skip the intro here. So I've clicked this little 3-line button here at the top. And that gets you to the little Google Earth panel. Under Settings, if you click on Settings, if you scroll all the way to the bottom under General Settings, turn on KML File Import. That'll let you bring in the file that I gave you. So we'll go ahead and turn that on, and I'll click Save. And then at that point, I think we can go find it. So let's see here. Import KML file. So it's that little bookmark looking thing. Import KML file. We're going to open file. It was in my downloads folder. And there it is. It's a KMZ file that I gave you, but it'll still work. All right. So the advantage of this is it lets me put a little pin in where the site would be. But let's get some more context. Anybody been to Yosemite before? A few of you. Anybody hike Half Dome before? No? Oh, come on. It's the fun thing to do. Anyway, totally worth it, by the way, if you want to do it. But you must be prepared. I can't even talk today. Be prepared not to walk for 3 days afterward. Just saying. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and switch this down into 3D mode so we can get a better sense. So this valley right in here is Yosemite Valley, right there. Our building site is tucked back up, kind of on the way. The reason I asked if you hiked Half Dome before is it's up on the way to Half Dome. It's in the flats on the way up to Half Dome, right in there. And so I've placed the building site right in this little area. There's a little creek/river that flows right down in here. I don't know if we can see it now. I can't really see it there. And on our site, there's a couple other little buildings, but we're just going to pretend that they're not there. Likewise, we will, if you want to be able to get to your site, notice that I didn't say anything about a garage or cars or any of the rest of it. So we're just going to assume that you take a path to your site. You park somewhere else. And I don't want people spending time designing garages as much as you would like to have a big fancy garage. Sorry, you get exempt from that for now. So anyway, that's our little site there. If you were to hike up Half Dome, you would hike this way and then around. Let's see if we can. Nope, that was wrong. There we go. You would hike right up there past those falls into that little valley, and you kind of hike your way up around the backside of Half Dome. Yeah, up here, you get to that point there, and then you hike up a ridiculous number of steps to get to that. And then you go over this little crest into this little valley right there. And then from here up is where there's basically cables on either side, and you climb up the sheer rock face. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Worth doing. It's a pretty spectacular view. You find out how afraid of heights you really are at this edge. I was only able to stick my feet over the edge. That was like right there. I was only able to stick my feet over. I couldn't crawl and look over. That was too much. So you know, you'll see. There's a little rock outcropping up here too. I forget where it is. That totally freaked me out to be standing on. Oh, it's right there. So right there, those little rocks jut out over everything. They kind of hang out over. And my wife insisted that we take a picture on the end there, and I was not too down with that. Anyway. So enough about Half Dome, but the reason that I bring this up on Google Earth is so that we can get a sense for what's really happening. And you can get context for where we are and what we're looking at, etc. So if we come down to our building site here, like this, like that, our building site is surrounded by mountains on either side. So over here to the right I have mountains, over here to the left I have mountains. So our sun, as it comes around, is fairly covered by mountains. So we don't have, yeah, there we go, there's some trails. We don't have a great sun exposure to this, but we do have a pretty good view coming out across the valley, if I can get toward the mountains on the opposite side. So I'm trying to pull myself down so you guys can get a sense for what we're looking at here. So our winds in this particular site are generally going to be upslope early and downslope late. So we're going to have winds coming at us in the mornings and then behind us. You're not overly worried about sun exposure in this particular site, so you're not going to get a lot of solar heat gain on your building. But I wouldn't worry about that too much from a glass standpoint. If you really want to do a glass building, you can do a glass building. I'm okay with that. Trying to think what else. Spend a little bit of time, look at it, get some idea of what's going on and where this building site is. That's why I gave it to you in the first place. And then we're going to actually start building right in here. There you go. There you can see a little bit of the river. It's slow moving, so no big rapids. Okay, so when it comes to the site itself, I have a file here. I'm going to go ahead and open up AutoCAD, which I have here. I'm going to click on the open icon. It's a little open folder there. And in my, where was it? It was in my downloads. Nope. I'm so failing at my downloads folder. Downloads, there we go. All right, so if I open up this topography file, sorry about that, it's going to throw this error. It's going to do this every time because I created the topo file in Rhino and then exported it as an AutoCAD. So as a result, you end up with this. And so this is our building site. It's I think, if I remember correctly, it's like 1,000 feet on each side. So this is a huge site. Your building is going to end up being really, really small on this site. But I'm giving you a lot of space. These contours are at 1 foot intervals, and they're going downhill as you go toward the top. So this is going downhill here. The river flows right through where all these little arcs are. So it goes right along here, like that. You can see that we have one set of hill where the contours get steeper on this side, and they're much flatter over here. Most people are going to design somewhere in this flat area, right about there. When it comes to designing your building, I'm not overly worried about the contours. The contours will come to play a little bit later. I want to show you how to draw your elevation in relation to contours and what your building looks like on a slope. It's a very mild contour, so you're not going to have giant cliff or anything like that to have to draw. But when you go ahead and start drawing, remember that for whatever reason AutoCAD decides to load up in 3D mode, we're going to change that. I'm going to click this little down arrow at the top here, and I'm going to show my workspace drop downs. There it is. And I'm going to switch from 3D modeling to drafting and annotation. And that gives me the standard tools that you're going to be using. That you don't need the 3D tools. We're not building it in 3D yet. We'll get to that later on. And we're definitely not going to build it in 3D in AutoCAD. I'm going to go ahead and switch my layers while I'm here. So in my home ribbon, I'm going to go right to the middle where it says layers. And it's by default, it's on the topography layer. I'm going to switch to layer 0. And I do that just by clicking the little drop down. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. We can change that later on. The advantage there, though, is that if the topography is kind of throwing you off, you could actually click this little sun icon and the topography will go away. And we can bring the topography back later. So if you're a little confused, you can do that. Likewise, you can also click the lock icon for topography, and that will not allow you to select it or even touch it. Which can be an advantage. So when we start talking about your size of your building, etc., you have to do a little bit of math. You have to think about how big your building should be. Sometimes people like to create boxes that are like, here's a bedroom, here's another bedroom, and then arrange them. That's fine. At this level of design, you guys are more than welcome to do that. One thing that I would personally encourage you as you think about what you want your cabin to look like is imagine yourself standing in the space, and what do you want that space to feel like? Because that's a lot more about the building than just arranging the pieces. I could take a couple bedrooms and I could put them together with a little bathroom in the middle, and I could attach a kitchen and whatever. But if I'm thinking about what the space is like, then it's much more about how do I feel in this particular space, and what do I want? How do I want it connected to one another? Do I want the bedroom there? What would it look like to have a wall with a door to the bedroom here? Do I want a little hallway? Those kinds of questions tend to be a little bit easier when you're thinking about it. So in terms of drawing, we're going to work with our polyline tool just like we did before. And as you start to draw, so let's say, for example, I'm going to draw the bedroom wing area. Let's say I did 12 feet, like that. And then I'll come over another 12 feet like that. Oops, that first one was definitely not 12 feet. Let's try that one more time. There you go, 12 feet. I'll come over another 12 feet. So in this case, my bedroom was 12 by 12. Let me have a second bedroom that's 12 by 12, so let me copy this. I'm going to have 6 feet in between the two bedrooms, and I'm going to put a bathroom in here. We'll come up here maybe, let's say 8 feet. Like that. So I'm starting to kind of roughly lay these out. Now maybe I want one to be a master and one to be smaller. I mean, there's lots of decisions. I'm not saying that this is how you should draw it. I'm just showing you an example. Okay? So in this scenario, I'm starting to draw this out. I have a little hallway. Okay, this is starting to make sense. And then I want my, my kitchen and dining and living to be in this particular area. So we'll go up here and we'll go maybe 15 feet that way. And we'll come across like that, and we'll come back down. This is not the most exciting floor plan, I know. Okay? But let's say that I have that. Now, instead of doing the math, maybe I want to find out how big something is. Well, over here under Utilities, you have a measure tool. By default, the measure tool is measuring just the distance. But we can, if we click the little downward arrow, we can measure area. So when I've clicked area, I could then go through and draw. So I'm just clicking my points, and I could find out how big is my 2 bedrooms and my bathroom. So when I'm done, I hit the enter key, and then I look down here at my command line, and it says, oh, I have 336 square feet. Well, my guideline said about 400 feet. So I've got some more space. I could make one of the bedrooms a little bit bigger. If I look at my overall area, so let's hit escape a couple times. I'm going to come back over here, choose area again, and let's say this was my overall area. I can measure that area. And in that, area, there we go. It's 810 square feet. So I'm still under. So I've still got more flexibility. So it's worth spending a little bit of time and thinking about, okay, well, how do I want to divide this up? What do I want to start to draw? You know, and also, what do I want to see? Remember, the views are out this direction. So maybe I want my bedrooms to be rotated on their side. So I could rotate them up. Rotate, by the way, sorry, sometimes I go fast. I forget that you don't know everything. So if I wanted to rotate something, I could come up here and click on the rotate icon. It's going to ask me to select my objects. I can say, okay, there's my objects. I'll press enter. Then it's going to ask me rotate a specify a base point. This is the point around which I want to rotate. So let's say right there. And then you could choose how far you want it to rotate. You could type in a value. So I could say I want it to rotate 90 degrees, and it's going to rotate to 90 degrees. And then I can continue working on how these might set up. And so maybe I'm changing my mind. Maybe I want to come in here. Let's go maybe 4 feet there. Let's come over here 10 feet. And then let's go 6 feet. You know, so maybe I'm starting to draw. Now, once I have my layout set up where I'm kind of happy with what I'm starting to draw, remember I need to start offsetting to create the thickness of the walls. So I could come back here and I could say offset. My distance is going to be 6 inches. And I could say, okay, well, I want that one to be offset. I want this one to be offset. I'll offset this line that way and this line that way. Now, I wouldn't want to offset in both directions here, obviously. I have those set. It would be time to go in and do a trim. So I'll select trim. And I can say, okay, with these objects, press enter. And I want to get rid of that and get rid of that. I didn't select these 2 objects, so it's not going to let me trim there yet. Let me hit enter to finish. Let's repeat that trim. There and there. And I might trim that and that. So I'm just kind of starting to work through it. Maybe it's time to cut a little doorway in here. I could cut the doorway. So from here, it's a lot of the same stuff that you guys did last class. So I'm not going to go through doing all of that again. I'll let you guys go through it. The big thing is kind of calculating out areas and starting to design what your building should look like. And if you can think of it as if you're standing in it, what it feels like, that oftentimes can help. Think about vaults and ceilings, high ceilings, low ceilings, how you want those to feel between one wing and another wing, where you want your outside space to be, where you want your inside space to be. Maybe you have your building surrounding a space, so it's protected. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Those are questions to ask yourself. Okay? So I'm going to let you guys get started. You have the rough outline. You have the rest of the day to work through this. Obviously, you have your exercise 118 handout. When it comes time to print this, don't worry about the fact that the contour line goes through my building. Doesn't matter for right now. We'll solve that at a later date. When it comes time to post this, you're going to use the printer icon right there. So I'll click on the print icon, which printing in AutoCAD is called plotting, because generally it's on a wide format printer. That's why. But we're going to click on that print icon, and we're going to change the printer and plotter name to the one at the bottom here, publish to web JPEG. Use the default paper size. And then right here under plot area, I want to choose what to plot. It's going to be a window. And then I'm going to draw a window around my floor plan. It's already set to fit to paper. And so when I say OK, it's going to ask me where I want to save it and then save that JPEG for what we're posting. You don't need to assign line weights yet. We'll get to line weights a little bit later on. And then we'll do elevations next class. OK? You guys have any questions for where we are? Yeah? The layer. So all I did was I switched my working layer. So when you first open it, and this was my fault, the layer was set to topography when I saved it, because I had just drawn the topography. I clicked in this layers section of the home ribbon. I clicked on where it says topography, and I changed and selected layer 0. And with layer 0 selected, then when I draw, it's going to be on layer 0. The other thing that I did is the topography, I clicked the lock icon next to topography so that I don't accidentally select and delete the topography. It will let me select it like it does there, but if I press the delete key, it's not going to actually delete it. So it can, likewise, I wouldn't be able to trim it right now either. So it just kind of is there in the background. This does give you a sense, as I started to draw it, of how small your little floor plan is going to be. So you've got a lot of site context and a relatively small building.